We're in the car park at the Emu Valley Rhododendron Garden. It should be a nice walk. We might get to see the platypus even. And hopefully no snakes. So let's go. The establishment. There's a coffee shop at the far end. We might have a look at the end. $15 and go for a walk. So here we go. See, some of these are getting close to bud burst. I'm sure there'll be others further on that are already in flower. But it's a big thing, the number of rhododendrons here. There's an early bud burst. Typical rhododendron, lots of little flowers all clumped together to make it appear to be a big one. One of the things about the Emu Valley Rhodo garden is that there are platypus in the dam, or pond as some people like to call it. But in the meantime we'll just wander along. If we see one, we see one. We've been lucky with wildlife so far on this channel. There was the wallaby back in Mersey Valley, on the Mersey Bluffs we managed to spot. Another pleasant pink Rhodo here. They are set up in continental areas. I'm not sure where I am at the moment, but we'll have a look. Apparently they arose in the Himalayas. Would make sense why they work well in the places that have rhododendron gardens in Australia. That I look to your front, you can see as we zoom up, it's pretty much a valley cutting that we're in, which gives you lots and lots of microclimates. On the whole, I'd say it's gently laid out. Can be a bit of a climb back up, but that's okay, we just go slowly. Get a nice view of the early flowering of some of these species. You can see there that the individual flowers are on longer spikes, so they show up as independently different. Head now to the crossing of the pond. We'll have a look about, see if we can spot some platypus. It's quite a catchment here. There's hills all around, as you can see. On the other side of the bridge, which is quite a sizable little pond. Dam. Tank, I think, is also another phrase for these sorts of water catchments. And there's the little fountain at the other end. Just saw some bubbles over there, so we'll see how we go. They are apparently quite sociable, these platypus, because of course no one's tried to harm them. Now, there's an offer you can't refuse. I must say it is quite a steep climb, even though it might not look it on screen. See all the fallen leaves in there. It's I hope you can pick up the birds in the background. Rhododendron forest almost there. Then we move around. There's quite an opening here. And the gazebo, as promised. Let's wander up and have a look. Quite a nice architectural effect under here. Really quite pleasant. I would imagine has saved a lot of people in sudden downpours. Not sure if you can see that little fella. They're known as magnificent wrens. And it is a fella because he's the one with all the colours, but a very juvenile version. View of the lake at the back there that we've just walked around. And to our front we have a sundial. Unfortunately, it's cloudy today, so who knows what time it is by the clock. Now this larger little bush here at the back, I suspect is an azalea, very closely related to rhododendrons. First cousins, one might say. Now there's a name to catch the eye. We might follow the hybrid hideaway. At this stage of the year, these are yet to come into flower by the looks of things. Swing around on the path, continually heading down, which means at some stage we've got to turn around and head back up. But that'll be fun when the time comes. There's a burst of colour down yonder, so let's go and have a look. There's very attractive pale purple ones that are right next to these scarlet red. You can see in the background there, they've got some more about to burst bud. It's quite an impressive colour. Going on through the hybrid trail. A surprise, looks like a bit of a kid's playground area where you can connect all those little seats up like jigsaw puzzles. The back of a sign, I'll go and have a look. This is indeed the hybrid hideaway. Let your imagination run wild. Be creative. What a nice idea. Really hope we're picking up all the bird song. It's really quite pleasant. Now if I'd known I could come down by vehicle, that would have saved the walk back up. But there you go, no buses past this point. Let's take the high road. You can see there's a whole layer of Rhodos in flower up there. Probably get a bit more heat earlier in the year, further up the valley side. As I'm walking up the hill, try and get a better view of these. I come round the corner and see the pink in all its splendour. I suspect that road's going to get us back up to the top. It's a bit early yet, and you can see what I mean about the clustering of the flowers. Really quite vibrant. I can confirm it's getting very steep. And just so that we know, I've added a railing. This is a very nice, another one of those pale Rhodos. Very gentle, very soothing. Quite a sizable tree, shrub, bush. As I say, the area is broken up into geographic locations around the world. Let's head on towards some more from Yunnan, a province in China. Not just Rhodos, I've got some other species here as well. Acer tells us that it's a maple. If we zoom up and zoom out, definitely a maple, but they won't be in flower for quite a while. It is only August. No identifying tag on this one that I can see. Another smaller flower, but very pretty. So it's very interesting, very tiny flowers. Give you some sense of perspective. There's my hand. There you go. This area Yunnan is sponsored through the generosity of the southern branch of the Australian Rhododendron Society. 2002. That's a few years back now. Lots of these meandering paths, you just never know what you're going to see around the corner. And these ones, as you can see here, have all finished flowering. There's one of the last flowers left on the tree. And yet further on around the tree, there's buds waiting to burst. We've had some very strange weather conditions here in the northwest for the last 3 or 4 years. So everything's a little bit out of whack. There's another variation on the Rhodo form. And again, really small flowers, even smaller than the last lot. And there's the hand to give you a perspective. Appears to be a hint of something Chinese as we wend our way down. We'll get there in a little while. When you come round the corner, just creeping into shot now is that red. Very bright, vibrant. Almost scarlet, I guess you'd call that. Does stand out in the late winter where everything else is leafless. Okay, so we've hit a crossroads. I'll continue on to the left to see all the rest of the Chinese stuff, but we will come back to look at the Japanese. I think the bottom road down there takes us from China to Japan anyway. Plaque telling us all about Sichuan, and above the plaque in the background is the Chinese pavilion and other seats. Let's work our way down just to the left there of the top of the Chinese pavilion. In the background you can see the Japanese pavilion. We'll work our way across there. Again, this is Tassie, so, and it is right next to some sclerophyll forests there, so you know that there will be snakes in here somewhere. You just need to be aware as you're walking around. Not really warm enough for them yet, but something to keep your eye out for if you happen to make it here. There's our Chinese pavilion, six-sided. Don't know if that has any significance. With a view out from the seat, across some Rhodos, and then out to the bushland and all the low cloud today. Not surprisingly, it's back up a hill as we head towards the Japanese area. It's a big place, China, so it's not surprising that there's lots of areas from there with Rhodos. Let's get moving. Specimen. The way the leaves are hanging reminds me very much of the roof up there behind it. Almost as if humans were mimicking nature. Should keep my eye out for trolls and whatnot as I cross the bridge. And we're moving along nicely. And we'll have to head south, or down the hill anyway. Down to the left is the Japanese tea house, apparently, the covered bridge, and of course the Sea of Japan. Perhaps that covered bridge was the thing we saw behind the Chinese pagoda, but we'll have a look when we get down there. Off the other direction, of course, is a maple forest, which isn't really rhododendrons, but you know, we'll have a look while we're here. So, this is the Japanese section. We'll swing around the top because we've had some Japanese tourists go by. And I don't want to talk over the top of them while they're viewing their stuff. Probably pass them going the other way. So we'll head towards the maple forest and work our way around into the Japanese area from the other side. And here are the aces. That is the maples, Acer, A-C-E-R. As you can see, they're quite bare at this time of the year. It's August, which in the Northern Hemisphere would equate to about February, I reckon. Seasonal wise, worth an eerie feeling in amongst all the bare bones of the naked trees. You come up to this bridge, you can see it's got these natives. I'm not sure what they're called. If you know, drop a comment below, let me know. It's quite otherworldly. They have that, tree ferns I think they might be. They have that as old as dinosaurs feel about them. But not unpleasant. You'll notice the chicken wire on the footpath, on the timber. That's to give you grip when it's frosty. Definitely entering into a Japanese area as we go through the circular gate. Yeah, getting very close to bud burst. They'll be quite magnificent in a couple of weeks. So they're very similar to Rhodos, close cousins, if not first then second. Similar style of flower, much smaller, but still grouping together to form larger clumps. There's a whole section of azaleas through here. Some there. It's a bell curve, so you get some early, lots in the middle, and a few late. There's a couple there starting to show as well. If you zoom in, you can see the colours. However, on the other side, it's in full bloom and very, very punchy. I don't know if you can see the little fella there. Perhaps not. There he is. Honeybee doing his work, her work. Of course, they're all females. Got a choice, so we'll go downhill this time. So I can hear the water running down here. Well, there does appear to be some ropes across the road, across the path, so I guess we're not getting down this way. But you can see little creeks running through there. Rather pleasant. Anyway, however, it will be uphill. We're definitely in the Japanese section. Look at the bamboo. Again, for context, about the size of a finger perhaps, or a bit larger. This one's much bigger. Oh, it has a lovely feel to it. The bamboo is guarding and protecting the entrance to the bridge. And again, you can see the chicken wire nailed down to the wood. Keep it safe. There are so many choices in this place. But I was headed towards the covered bridge on the Sea of Japan, so we'll go down that way before we come back for Korea and Taiwan. You can see there's a pool down there and the ground drops away fairly sharpish, but it does give you quite a pleasant view. And over there at the back, pastures up the back there. Apparently this valley was donated by a landowner, landholder, because it was no good for anything agricultural. I have my doubts about that, but thankfully he did. And now we have this magnificent facility. Doing our downward spiral, or zigzag I guess, almost like the Alpe d'Huez of the Burnie area. For those who understand their Tour de France references. We saw earlier runs down to where we couldn't walk any further, comes down into this pond, and then out the corner over there, and down to the larger pond at the bottom, which for the purposes of this exercise apparently is called the Sea of Japan. Confirmed. In the meantime, we're about to cross the covered bridge, a Japanese feature. Nice shot there of a fella fishing. May even have a fish pulled up on the bank with him. By the looks of the spot, which I guess is the idea of a Japanese garden. Nice seats there to observe and just relax. Catch your breath before the climb up the hill. Pick it up, but the running water in the background here is really quite soothing. Get a view of the Japanese area. Well, our tourist seems to have disappeared. I hope they haven't been taken by yowies. But we're going to head back up through the bridge and up towards Taiwan and Korea. There's rhododendrons all over the world. So this is the way which takes us past Korea and Taiwan, I believe, fine North American examples. So let's hit the road. Look out. There's Taiwan, just up there. So let's get moving. An island off the east coast of China. And that's as much as I'm going to say. Rhododendron, but the Formosa cherry, Formosa being an older name for Taiwan. And there we are, the Taiwan section. It's not overly large, and I suspect that they flower later in the year because it's a more tropical zone. Even though there's mountains, it is in the tropics, so it'll have to get a lot warmer before they flower. So we'll move on from Taiwan to, of all things, North America. I'm not making any connections there. You all know, lots of climate zones across North America, and it's home to 25 separate species of rhododendrons and azaleas. So let's get moving. Another little pond here. You can hear the water dribbling in at the back there. There's the sound of running water everywhere. It's really quite calming. Now there's the walk all the way to the car park at the top there, but I think we'll take the road less travelled and follow the blue pathway with the blue arrows, which I think I've been doing anyway earlier. And now the sun's out and it's starting to warm up. So I'm a little bit heightened, keeping my eye out for the little buggers. And I just heard something rattle in the bushes next to me. Turns out it was a lizard. But the heart rate's up a bit, so hopefully we can get back without encountering any snakes. We head up there. Little water feature down here. That's the water we've been hearing in the background the whole time before it dribbles into the pond on track, so to speak. And there's a bit more of the water course before it flows over, for some reason, an AstroTurf bridge, and then flows down into Grebe Lake. Pat's Grebe Pond. We're definitely getting closer. Final objective. There's the cafe up there. Of course, that was a North American gazebo over there. Definitely different from the Chinese. Walk up the cliff face, or we could continue to zigzag our way up along the path. I'll take the path. We're sitting here, just on the edge of the large pond. You can see the water feature there. We zoom across. You can see the azaleas and whatnot, and the rhodos that have started to bloom, and the starkness of the trees that are yet to burst bud. All the way up to the tea rooms up there. I'll give a summary from the balcony there, as I have a caffeine-based beverage. And we're marching along, crisscrossing the hillside. I do have the hope that eventually we'll get to the top, but you know, this might be where I live from now on. There are worse fates. Still heading down when I had hoped to be heading up, but I do know this bridge. If I chuck a left here, I should end up heading back up the hill. Although it's suggesting I go that way, so to hell with it, let's try it. Glad we came this way. Look at the colour of these. They are just magnificent. There's a variation on that theme. Very, very pretty. Get another variation, more yellow than orange these, but still very pretty. Get the Rhodo shaped leaves. The same principle of lots of little flowers, but look at them. Absolutely magnificent, but no nameplate, so I can't tell you what they are. If you know, drop a comment below. That took about 2 hours to wander about. I did backtrack a couple of times. It's quite a nice view from up here. I'll give you a look in a minute. But we have the coffee. Who's this walk for? Well, anyone that loves rhododendrons, obviously. Anyone who's into gardening anyway, and people who just want to relax. It's really quite a peaceful spot, only about 10-minute drive out of Burnie town. Sorry, the city of Burnie. As I say, it was agricultural country that was handed over, and it's about 50 odd years old, I guess, maybe a little bit older. And so it's starting to develop into a really nice garden. I'll give you one more view of the background. From up here on the veranda of the cafe, and she swings round. There's the pond where allegedly the platypus live, all the way around.